and work with it as we go. 1 second here, unmute Sherry. All right, Sherry, it's all good to go.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you having me. As Brett said, my name is Sherry Ewing. I'm a speech-language pathologist here at Eisenhower Health, and today we're going to be discussing communication challenges when wearing masks. Speech-language pathologists, we are not experts in masks, but we do work with patients that have speech and language and communication problems, and so we definitely have, felt the difficulty communicating ourselves and also our families and our patients as well. So, while we and everybody in our community is doing our part to slow the spread of the coronavirus by wearing face coverings and by wearing masks, these masks, as we all know, they make it hard to hear and they filter out sound and they can be really, really frustrating. And they're especially frustrating for people with communication impairments or hearing impairments. That even makes it harder. And the world is a strange place. Likely the way you interact, the way I interact is different, whether you're interacting with friends or family or in the community, in the workplace, or even working out wearing masks. So it's different, but it's a challenge that's not going away anytime really, really soon. So we have to sort of live with it and do the best that we can. Brett, could I get that slide on the CDC, please? So, we're wearing these masks, as you all know, because the CDC recommends that all Americans wear face masks while in public or in groups. And of course, we have to do this in addition to good hand washing and social distancing. And just as a reminder, the masks are a simple barrier to prevent respiratory droplets from traveling into the air and onto another person. And it's particularly important when we're not able to socially distance. So think about sometimes in the workplace or sometimes meeting with a medical professional, we can't always be 6 feet away. And, this is always changing, but currently Riverside County in the state of California is also, I don't know if the word mandate is the right word, but they are also encouraging us all to wear face masks. Okay, you can remove that slide. So just to back it up a little bit, who should not wear the face mask? You can pull that slide off, Brett, if you don't mind. Who should not wear the face mask is children under 2 or those that have a really, really difficult time breathing. And I'm talking about people with severe COPD or emphysema, people on oxygen, or people who are comatose and they can't actually remove the mask themselves. So again, masks aren't going away anytime soon. And a New York Times article, it sampled 511 epidemiologists, and over half of them felt that we would be wearing masks well into 2021. So it's going to present challenges for a while. So first, I just thought I would go through and show you the appropriate way to put on a mask. And so you always want to start with good hand washing and make sure your hands are clean. You want to put the mask over your nose, loop it through your fingers, around your ears. You want to make sure it covers your chin and it covers your nose, and you kind of want to push it down if you can. So what we don't want to do is touch the front of our mask. We don't want to reposition the mask. When we take the mask off, again, you want to wash your hands. And this is, I think, easy to forget, especially when you get in the car from the grocery store or from work. The first thing you want to do is take your mask off. But really, if you can use hand sanitizer or something like that, and you want to, put your hands through the loop, take it off, and put it on a clean surface. So that could be tissue, paper towel, something like that. For our people that are hearing impaired that wear hearing aids, be really careful, because I've had about 3 or 4 patients lose or misplace hearing aids, because when you take it off your ears, boom, it's just really easy for those to fall out. So the different types of masks, I'll take that slide if I could, Brett. Just as a review, of course we have the cloth face mask, I'm sorry, I should give you a number. Yeah, sorry, that's my bad, everybody. So it's following demonstrate the mask. It's, excuse me. Number eight, I think. Oh no, this is number 10. Sorry. As I said, I am not an expert in this. So this is a cloth face mask. So, you know, they're talking about 3 layers for the cloth face mask, and sometimes they're 2 layers with a insert or filter in the inside. The nice thing about these is you can kind of show your style, you know, pick different colors, whatever you like with the cloth face mask. And I think in the community, the cloth face mask is just fine. Of course, we have the surgical mask that looks like this, and the surgical mask is really a one-time only type of mask. I find myself wearing, I don't know, about 2 of these a day here at work, depending on whether they get wet or whether I'm sweaty. So these don't do well with moisture, but the benefit of these, if you can see it, is that they prevent the large splashes and the large droplets. They filter those out. And I find this to be a comfortable one. And then of course we hear a lot about the N95 mask, and this is one example of an N95 mask. This particular one has 2 loops on it, but it's a really tight fit for this particular kind of mask. It prevents the small respiratory droplets, so that's one of the reasons it makes it such an effective mask, and it's also water resistant. In the beginning, we were really being told that non-healthcare professionals should not be wearing the N95, but I think at this point there's more of an abundance of N95s. This is another N95. I call this the duck one because it looks like a duck. So it's just kind of a different shape. Same sort of benefits. I ordered this transparent face mask off the internet because, you know, we as speech pathologists would love people to see our mouth when we're trying to help them communicate, and for our hearing impaired people. So this is kind of what it looks like. I don't particularly like this one because it doesn't fit me well, and that's a challenge that you can't really try these on. Yes, you can see my mouth, but when I talk, it kind of fogs up. So if you can get a really good, or if someone you know can make a transparent face masks, they're out there, and those can be beneficial in certain circumstances. Okay, you can pull that slide if you like. And we'll go to the ASHA slide. I think that's the next one. So speech language pathologists, we work under the American Speech Language Hearing Association, and when all of this COVID stuff sort of happened, there was a lot of fear and concern for people with communication and hearing impairments with wearing masks. And so they wrote a letter to the CDC, you know, just kind of trying to make them aware of how face masks can alter communication. Thank you. And so here's just an excerpt from it. You know, face masks can alter communication by reducing overall loudness, muffling speech, and corrupting facial expression. They especially block access to facial features we rely on the most for communication. So kind of a powerful statement, especially using the word corrupting facial expression, but it's really rather true. And you know, in a nutshell, it's basically, we're saying that it's hard to hear, it's hard to understand, and it's hard to communicate. So, you know, some of the challenges with the face masks, again, the key facial features. So from the bridge of the nose down is really the area we rely on the most to communicate. And so we're losing a lot of context if we're just communicating with our eyes from 6 feet away. And that's of concern. And I like to refer back to the old term face-to-face communication. And especially now you can see how true that is. And we still need face-to-face communication, but now we have a mask to challenge us. So with that, the background noise that we're dealing with in a grocery store, Starbucks, the hospital, your workplace, wherever you might be, or even in your home with the television or the radio, that can, additionally make it harder. For some people, especially our elderly or people we're caring for, it's difficult to see maybe the pain on their face or the fear on their face. All those kind of facial expressions are hidden. So, who's challenged by the mask? I mean, I am. Every single person I know is challenged by the mask. I really haven't met anyone who likes to wear the mask, but again, we're dealing with it and we're making the best of it. And so people that are hard of hearing are challenged, children are challenged, people with communication disorders, they're especially challenged. So let's talk about people with hearing impairment and the challenges they face. So we know about hearing aids. And so even with hearing aids, some of these people are having a hard time hearing the speaker with the mask on their face. And we've talked about the hearing aids can fall out, so be careful of that. But also don't forget about our lip readers. And so a lot of people are lip readers, and they don't even know that they're lip readers. And so you may, even your spouse or your family member, they may read your lips and you're not even realizing it. So you take away that visual cue and they're really lost, and it can be really scary. Children are challenged by the masks. They don't understand why they have to wear them. They don't want to wear them. Young children learn speech and language by watching and listening. And again, we're covering that up. They learn sound placement with the mouth. And people with communication impairments, I'm talking about, hearing impaired, we mentioned that, but also people that have had strokes, Parkinson's, dementia, brain injuries, Alzheimer's, and even people with a voice disorder, people who have trouble using increased vocal volume or strength of voice. And, some of these people are, challenged by communication on a good day, before COVID and before the masks. They may have trouble understanding language. They may have trouble stringing a sentence together. They may have slurred speech and they have to work really hard to get their point across even without the mask. So we want to be especially kind and cognizant of communicating with those people, those patients. So we talk about clean hands and clean surfaces, and that's a big part of reducing the spread of COVID-19, but also, I want to talk today about clean communication. So cleaning up our communication to make it most efficient and effective. And I've got some tips today. Some of these, are very obvious, but they may be things we don't think about because we've been wearing the masks now for a good 4 or 5 months, and we're kind of getting used to it. And since we're getting used to it, we forget that we're not conveying the same kind of emotion that we intend to. I took my dad to the neurologist about a month ago, and he has a really fun, exuberant neurologist in town. And he put his hands on his hips and he said, "So, Scott, you're using that walker every day, aren't you?" And my dad didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything, and I thought, he never told my dad he had to use a walker. And then he could kind of see that we were surprised, and he says, "I'm kidding." And so, he used this gesture to show us. He said, "It's the mask." And so, that was just, it was lost because of the mask. And we know him and we've seen him before, but it's easy to lose. So anyways, back to clean communication. Think about establishing eye contact with the person you're speaking with. Of course, this is a good strategy in everyday life in general, but if you're speaking to someone who's in a wheelchair, get down to their level. You might have to bend down so that they know you're listening. If you wear hearing aids, check your devices. check the devices of your friends or family, make sure they're working, make sure the batteries are working. If you don't know how to do that, you can put the battery in your hand and kind of, if they squeal, they're working. Ask the person you're speaking with, whether it be a young person or an older person, can you hear me? And if you have trouble hearing, I think it's a good idea to let your listener know right away. Even though I have hearing aids, I'm still having trouble hearing with the mask, or I can't hear you. It kind of sets the tone for the communication pattern, and people are a little bit more patient when they know you have trouble hearing. Think about using gestures. Some of us, like myself, talk with our hands a lot, so gestures help. Using your eyebrows more. Some people that have hearing impairment or communication impairment, they may want you to supplement with a pen and paper. And you may ask them, how do you want to communicate? Reduce the background noise, so turn down the TV, turn down the radio. It's especially hard, I notice, driving in the car if two people are wearing masks and the radio is going. Again, a good transparent face mask, this isn't one of them, could be helpful. Next slide. So we want to use clear speech. I often hear people working really hard to do this, but they're over exaggerating. So they are exaggerating every sound. And so that can be really, really distracting and unnatural. So in order to use clear speech, you want to slow down just slightly, and you want to precisely produce the sound. So you want to think about using all of the sounds. Don't shout. I hear a lot of people like yelling, and yeah, maybe the person can hear you, but you're going to hurt your voice and it's going to be exhausting, and you're just not going to want to engage in that communication. So, just elevate your voice slightly. And a good way to do this is to breathe in through your nose and exhale as you speak. So if you inhale before you speak and you exhale as you speak, you can gently increase the volume. You also want to use an appropriate breath support, which is what I just mentioned, but a natural pitch, excuse me. So you don't want to speak at too high of a pitch, and you don't want to speak at too low of a pitch. And believe it, I know that sounds silly, but believe it or not, people do this sometimes because they're trying so hard to get a louder voice. So your natural pitch is kind of that pitch right in the middle. And an easy way to find your natural pitch, just as an aside, is sort of a mm-hmm or a hum. And you can kind of place your voice. So you want to kind of place your voice in your face. Stay hydrated. Obviously it's hot enough here that we all need to stay hydrated, but then you put a mask on your face all day and we forget to drink as much. And the medications we take dry us out, so that can be challenging. So drink lots of water. That keeps your lips and your tongue and your teeth from sticking together also. During a communication interaction, confirm your understanding. I'm hearing you to say that you are hungry right now. Is that what you said? Just kind of confirm what you're hearing, as opposed to kind of just shaking your head and faking it. So those are some good tips for clean communication. Let's talk a little bit about emotions. So we've talked about speech and speech production and hearing and whatnot, but the other part of this is emotions, and emotions are a big part of who we are. And of course, there's hundreds of different emotions, happy and sad, and emotions can be complicated and they can be messy. Thank you. And we use words, we use the tone of our voice to express emotions. We use our facial expressions to express emotions. We use body language. And again, we've been wearing the mask long enough that we kind of forget, and especially if it's a new person that you're speaking with, a new communication partner, they may not know, how you sound in your voice. So you want to think about, let's say, for example, you want to express some empathy. So you may, lean forward a little bit. You may put your hand on your heart. You may change the tone of your voice. For example, a quieter, more gentle tone might indicate the feeling of empathy. Watch the rate of your speech. So people that speak really, really quickly and you're trying to express your emotions, that might get lost. Also use words. So sometimes we rely on these smirks and grimaces underneath the mask, but those cannot be seen. So you might use words to express how you're feeling, as opposed to relying on the facial expressions. But think about the whole body. Think about gestures. Think about your eyes. Think about your posture. You know, I read an article, interestingly enough, that was saying that, and it's true, I believe, that when we meet a new person, we kind of establish trust based on our interaction with them and their face and their eye contact and how they look when they're communicating with you. And so when you're meeting a new person, this is really kind of lost. So, you know, be aware of those kind of things and just, you know, be patient and be kind and, you know, take the time to really communicate what you want to communicate, because I think we really have to keep verbal and nonverbal communication in the forefront. It's easy to revert to text messaging and emailing, and you know, sometimes we have to do that, but you know, right now it's a tough time, and this is a way we can continue to connect with people, and especially with our elderly. So I hope this was helpful to you. I look forward to hearing your questions and comments and seeing what you have to say.
All right, with that, I'm going to unmute anyone who has a question. Hold on. It's not letting me unmute everybody, but if you have a, they've changed the new unmuting things, but if you have a question, please feel free to ask.
Well, Sherry, I was just kind of wondering when you were talking about hearing impaired, how this affects ASL as a way of communicating. Because I know when I'm watching, especially the governor or any political thing, you always have someone there that's doing American Sign Language, and their facial expressions, including their mouth, well, they're not usually masked on TV. So it's like, I don't think you could, and we do provide, and one's coming up in September, I believe, ASL training and classes. And so
That's nice.
Yeah, it's got to be a whole different.
Yeah, that's a great point. Exactly. That's part of the American Sign Language. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the, that's an example of a reason that the American Speech Language and Hearing Association was urging the CDC to consider transparent face masks, you know, so people can continue to do that. I just haven't seen a good one yet, but yeah, you're absolutely right. That complicates it. And so again, I think that's one of the reasons we have to consider like the entire population. We don't all obviously fit into one box. And a big part of American Sign Language is the facial expression. Absolutely. That's a great point.
So are they exempt from wearing masks in certain situations? Do you know?
You know, I don't know if there's an exemption per se, but I think that in certain situations, people are aware of the challenges, and I certainly would think it's appropriate to exempt them. Yeah.
Yeah. When I was this weekend, I was at Big Bear, and of course, everyone had to have a mask when we were going onto this boat, and there was probably about an 8-year-old girl with her family, and she did not have one. And so when they pointed that out, that she can't get on the boat without it, the mother said, well, she has autism. And so that's another thing. So I'm guessing that that's like too much for that child to understand or put on. But I mean, there's so many different situations. Yeah,
that's another great example. Yeah, a lot of children with autism have sensory processing issues, and you know, they have aversion to textures, and they may have speech and language problems, so many things. Or even a child with Down syndrome who intellectually couldn't understand that. Yeah.
Sherry, in terms of disposable mask, I know you mentioned take them off, put it on a clean towel, but I think people trying to reuse them.
Yeah.
What is the fair lifetime, sort of say, of a disposable face mask? How many times really can you use them?
According to the CDC, they say it's a one-time use. So, that could be like one day sort of thing, unless it gets wet. Of course, you're right. I've seen people use them, more than one day, and I probably myself have done that in the car, if I needed a mask and it's in the car, but really once a day. The cloth masks are a nice alternative, if you can wash those out. That's the thing I didn't mention too, is we need to wash those, frequently. But just kind of having a variety of masks, and some people can't afford to go buy surgical masks. I understand that, and that's really where the cloth masks, I think, are super effective.
So would you recommend with cloth masks that like every few days you're doing it? I know sometimes I just look at mine, and if it doesn't have makeup on it, it's good to go.
Right. I think it depends on the situation. So I think, for me, as an example, going out to work every day and sweating, walking across campus and whatnot, I would wash it every single day. I'm not wearing a cloth face mask, but, if you're just wearing it, in and out of the house, into the store, I think you could probably get a couple of days out of it, maybe 2 or 3 days. Yeah. Especially if you're placing it in a clean environment.
One of the things I saw on, I don't know what program it was, but it was some news program that was showing how people are disposing of cloth masks in parking lots. They're not putting them in the trash, and that in the future, as we move forward, this is going to be a real problem when it gets into our drainage. They're going to go into the ocean eventually. They can clog drains. And it's like when you hear this, you just think, and this is just me, and I like to vent, but it's like, what's wrong with people?
I know.
You've got rubber gloves, and I know I've seen it here in Palm Springs, rubber gloves and masks in parking lots, and it's just,
it's very sad.
People need to be so much more responsible than they are. But
absolutely, there's so many, every day I'm talking to somebody, and there's so many implications of all of COVID, that you don't even think about, even like the coin shortage, because people are now spending money in coins. I mean, right? That's a
I heard
crazy
that
thing.
too. Yeah, that at the grocery store they say we're not going to give you change.
Right.
I
know. Yeah, I mean, we tend to think about the things that affect us, but there's like so many areas, and I agree, it's awful to see those masks. That's just a whole nother, whole other way to litter.
Yeah, another question about disposable masks. Some of them are blue on one side, white on the other side, and people get confused. Okay, which side is supposed to put this in? Is there a right way to use them, or it doesn't matter?
What I have read is that the colored side goes out. So I don't know if you can see the color on this, but blue and white. So the colored side faces out for all the masks. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I would say about those kind of masks is that they have some pleating, and it's designed to go over your face, and you open the pleating, and it basically only folds one way when you figure it out.
That's true.
So that's the other way you can tell with that kind of a mask.
That's true.
Yeah, and I have seen the littering that Candace talks about. Gloves in the parking lot, a fair amount. Gloves are not being used as much now.
Yeah.
But I've seen that too. And I was going to say about sign language interpreters, they tend to be at a distance from where other people are for speaking, particularly on television. They could be on a side of the stage, so that they tend not to be around other people, which separates them. I think that helps to enable them to not have to have a mask.
Absolutely.
Well, Andrew, too, what I was talking about with that, Andrew, is that two deaf people talking to each other, though.
Oh, true.
You know what I'm saying? You've got the interpreters, and I get that, and I was citing, on TV. But when you have deaf people, I was wondering, is there, are they exempt from wearing masks, or do they just pull them down when they have to talk? Because you're not going to be able to talk to each other using American Sign Language. Yeah. And that's a very large population
Sure.
the folks out there.
Right. And again, I think that's, part of the movement with the American Speech Language Hearing Association to talk to the CDC about, allowing for things like that. So I think that is happening. I really do.
What I wanted to ask about is that now face shields are starting to become available in stores and such, and an article in the Times indicated that they are comparably effective. Do you have any comment about that?
Well, my understanding of the face shield is that it's really been developed to protect our eyes from COVID getting into our eyes. And that was a surprise to me because my assumption was that it was, about protecting us from the droplets, but it is protecting us from the droplets, but it's for your eyes. So another option is the goggles. So you'll see healthcare professionals wearing either the shield over their mask, never just a shield, or goggles. So
I just thought a shield helps with communication.
it does, but the problem with
have
the
to wear
shield is it's open underneath, so droplets could still get up there. So you still have to wear the mask.
Right, and I think that's in the same way that bandanas and neck gaiters
Exactly.
are not as effective because there's, ways out.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone, the last time I gave this lecture, talked about a match test that I hadn't heard of. If you could blow out a match through your mask or your gaiter or whatever, then it's not thick enough.
Yeah.
And that is the shields you're referring to. I mean, I was at a local restaurant this weekend, very distanced and everything. They did everything right, except 3 of the employees who were serving the table wore just the face shield.
Oh,
No mask, no anything else. And then they wanted to have conversation like they would normally do. And I was like, you don't want to chastise somebody.
Right.
But
I
it was
know.
like, okay, that's completely defeating the whole purpose of what it is.
Right.
What restaurant, Brett? What restaurant? I won't go.
And it's so hard too because you want to
Great corned
educate
beef and
people.
cabbage, if that helps.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You want to educate people, but you don't want to be, aggressive because people are really fired up about the mask
Oh,
thing
yeah.
too. So it's kind of you have to kind of just read people.
Yeah. And she was being very sweet to try to
Right.
communicate and, but
Right.
it was,
Yeah.
that's hard. So, and then I hear, I know we do here at work. I mean, one of the original things were to use the clamshell, like a styrofoam clamshell. Not that I promote everybody going out and buying tons of styrofoam.
Yeah.
These are all a lot of little byproducts that we'll all have to deal with in months to come, all this surplus. But, is having that clamshell and you put it in a clamshell and that remains at your desk. And so I do that during the day. So it closes if I know that I'm going to be sitting at my desk. I'm not going to be engaging with anybody around me. I put it in there so that it stays kind of clean and unsoiled. And then I grab it by the earpieces, not the mask, and put it on when I walk or go to the restroom or those kind of things.
Yeah, those are good ideas too. And we didn't talk about, all the crazy ways people try to wear their masks, like, with their nose hanging out or, up here. I see
They
all
don't open
sorts
the
of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's surprising to me. It's almost like people don't sometimes have a sense for even how it feels crooked on their face.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, you just enlightened me too, because, when I go into the office, I am not as cautious, I guess, with that mask because, I just pull it off. Usually, I throw it on my desk. I didn't even think about that, that we should be having it protected. And, I have to wear one on my ear when I go walk the dog, that in case I see someone, yes, it's my new earring. That's so lovely, Guillermo. Thank you for modeling. Yeah, and so I'm not even thinking about it. And at home, I just have a hook by the door where I hang over, like 10 of them on top of each other.
Good.
So I really guess I didn't think about the care when we're not wearing it.
Right.
And that you just pick it up by the earpieces. I would never think that. So
Yeah.
thanks, Brett, for making me be a little more conscious now.
Well, and that's one of the first things they issued clamshells to everybody in the company, at the hospital.
Of course, you're in the hospital.
Yeah, but it was just, we even did our own, and everybody got them, and then we had our own. And, but the thing is, and to your point of when you said you hang them on a hook on something, and so I do this in the car. My
Oh, yeah.
rearview mirror is now got 6 different, masks, and they're typically all clean. But what I did the other day, which was the wrong thing, is I wore a mask all day. And it was definitely a little wet because I've been breathing. It was 120-degree day. And when I got in the car, I didn't want it to lose it, or I wanted to visibly see it. So when I got out of the car, I could take it. I hung it up on the mirror with the clean masks. Okay, so the issue there is now you're taking a potentially contaminated mask you've been wearing all day and putting it next to a clean mask that you plan to wear the next day. And now you've contaminated both. So it's those little things that is where people are getting in, and getting in trouble, if you will, or they stick it in a backpack, or they stick it in a briefcase, or, those are the kind of things that we do that we just unconsciously, don't even think about.
It's definitely a learning process. There's like a learning curve, and there's always some new component that we add on to it. But we're learning, and it's, getting easier.
Donald, did you have something?
Yeah, well, my phone rang and I got bumped off, so I can hear you, but I don't have your picture anymore.
Well, we have yours.
Well, I'm here, but that's all.
Hi.
I have to find out why that happened. It's happened before. When my cell phone rings, somehow the ring bumps me off Zoom.
Huh.
Oh, that's
Anyway.
weird.
Well, we see you, and I love your backdrop. That's all I can
Yeah, I
say.
do too. Let me understand contamination better. So I'm putting this mask on. I'm breathing. I don't have COVID. I'm breathing it into there. Is it the outside of my mask that gets contaminated by maybe droplets when I'm in the store? I mean, I can't contaminate my own mask, right?
Well, yes, it's the outside of your mask that could get contaminated. But if someone were to touch the inside of your mask, someone else, they could have your germs. If you had,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. But what you're protecting yourself from, sorry, I'm getting like feedback, is the outside of the mask. Yeah. Those droplets.
Yeah, let me mute myself. Maybe that's me.
Well, and one of the other things is early on, so keeping in mind that the whole idea of the mask is, yes, the droplets and that, it's also from keeping you from, in any of your day-to-day activity, touching your keyboard, touching something else, going to the store, getting your keys, your car door, all those kind of things we do 100,000 times, and then touching your nose, touching your eyes. I got an itch on my forehead.
Yeah.
We had another presenter this morning who wore his mask perfectly and had the right mask and had all the right stuff, but literally probably 30 times in a 30-minute presentation, he physically was playing with the mask and touching his face and then touching other things. And we were laughing, just kind of like, afterwards we were going, okay, this is how you not do
How
that.
funny. We could have used him today.
We could have. And, unfortunately, he's a medical professional that knew better, but you just subconsciously just do these things. And so it's retraining ourselves to just cognitively think a little differently, how we protect the things that are ours. People were, getting away from using wipes, and then wipes weren't available, but, wipes are becoming more available. So, it's making sure that you're constantly cleaning, because you just don't know who's been in your space if you're in a communal kind of thing. I mean, if you're in your own home, that's one thing. But yeah, it's just taking the extra little precaution that can only help yourself. Additional questions from anyone? I did muted a few just for the feedback, but feel free to unmute yourself or ask a question if you have anything for Sherry. And I will say, Sherry, one thing that I find for myself is I'm drier because I now have something over my face. And I had dry, and I do an inhaler, and I have other things that I do for my own allergies and other stuff, that it has exacerbated the dryness.
Absolutely. I've had a couple nosebleeds with it.
Yeah. And so you really have to plan to do it. And I had another individual this morning now has a bit of a rash from the mask because,
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so you just, yeah. have
And
to kind of-
acne, I mean, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I know, it's no fun. Yeah, nasal sprays would be good to help keep it hydrated. But yeah, even just, for the time we had to wear the mask and the shield, I just wasn't drinking enough water because it was too much stuff to take off. Because then you have to like wash your hands, take it off, get a drink, wash your hands again, put it on, but it's important to stay hydrated, all of it.
Well, I find too that when I wear a mask, my nose runs.
That too, yeah. At least nobody can see, huh?
Yeah, but then it's kind of gross because then you got to pull it
I
down,
know.
put it back up. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes even there's just like a little piece of the mask that feels like it's tickling your nose and you just want to kind of wipe your nose or rub your nose or something. Yeah. But the important thing is that we're wearing masks and we're doing our best and we're trying not to touch our face, but nobody is perfect, that's for sure.
And it gives us another opportunity, especially in the LGBT world, to accessorize.
Yeah, there you go. Mhm.
Find the right thing that matches the right other outfit.
Exactly.
All right,
Nancy
any final
Pelosi does a great job at that. She
Yes,
accessorizes her mask daily.
yeah. Any final questions from anybody? All right. Well,
Thank
thank you
you
all
for your
for
time.
joining. And Sherry, thank you again for
My pleasure.
sharing all this information in regards to keeping ourselves safe and sound. And I can't think of the next presentation that comes up, Candace, to be honest with you. I'm not in my office, so I didn't bring but it'll be posted on the center site and posted on,
Yes.
Eisenhower site as well. All right.
Bye,
Well,
everyone. Thank you.
have a great evening, everyone.